Hello and welcome to Statistics. I'm your instructor Scott Daugherty, and in this video I'm going to give you a brief orientation into my math lab. So I want to talk about these buttons on the left hand side. So the first button is the course home button. When you click on it, you'll get this calendar. Now, this is the month of February, and you can see that you've got these icons on certain days. This icon indicates that there's been an announcement posted on this day, and you can click on the icon to read the announcement. Now, I'll be sending out announcements on a regular basis, so you should check your calendar for those announcements. And when I send out an announcement, I also send it to your email address that you have in my math lab, so you can check that as well. Now, this icon indicates that the orientation quiz is due February 22nd by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. All times in my math lab are in Eastern Time, so Central Time, this is 10:59 p.m. So this is your first assignment. Make sure you do that on time, because if you don't do it by the due date, I have to drop you from the class. Okay, you can also see that on March 6th, there is a test due by 11:59 p.m. on that day. Again, this is in Eastern Time, so that's 10:59 Central Time. And so that's our first exam. That's the due date for the first exam. And if you want, you can scroll through the other months. By the way, on March 27th, that's the due date for the second test. In April 17th is the due date for the third test. And then if you scroll to May 8th is the due date for the fourth test. And you can see here on May 13th, which is the last day of class, that's when all the homework is due. So all the homework for the class is due by May 13th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, you can also check announcements by clicking on this announcements button. This math orientation, Math 1342 orientation button brings you to this document, and you should read through this. I'm going to go over some of the higher points in this document. Notice here, again, like I've mentioned before, the orientation quiz is due before February 23rd. Make sure you take that, otherwise you'll be dropped from the class. And then the rest of this goes over some of the buttons in my math lab. If you want to read through that, you can. Now, in terms of contacting me, this is my cell phone number. If you need to call me or text me, you can text me at my cell phone number, but you can also email me at this email address. You will need a TI-84 or TI-83 graphing calculator for the class, so make sure you get one. And then I'll let you read through some of this. The only other thing I want to mention is I want to talk about testing. Tests will be taken online at your home without a proctor, so they won't be taken at a testing center this semester because of the COVID crisis. I'll show you how to access the exams in a moment, but when you click on it, the exam, you'll have to enter in a password, and the passwords are given in this document here. So these are the passwords for the tests, including the final exam. Okay, so if you have any questions about the orientation document, just let me know. I'll let you read through the rest of it. Okay, of course, this is the orientation video that you're looking at now. This will pull up the homework. Again, the homework is not due till the very end of the semester, but let me show you what the homework will look like when you pull it up. So notice here in this section, there's 15 questions. You can click on one of the questions, and what you'll see is you'll have this button on the right-hand side that says Question Help, and you'll have several options here. Help Me Solve This will go through this particular problem step by step and help you solve it. Whereas View an Example will come up with a very similar example and actually take you through every single one of the steps in that example. The textbook button will take you to a section in the textbook so you can read about this particular topic. We won't be using StatCrunch, so you can ignore that. The Tech Help button will pull up this window. And what you can do is you can click on this TI graphing calculator link, and it'll show you by topic how you can solve these different types of problems using the calculator. We won't be using the other information in that document, so we're not using Excel or StatDisks. So you only need to worry about the graphing calculator. We're not using Minitab or Excel or StatCrunch or anything else, just this first link. So that might be useful to learn how to use your calculator to solve some of the problems in statistics. In addition to that, you have this Ask My Instructor button, and what that'll do is it'll allow you to ask me a question via email, and it'll send the problem to me so I can read through it first. So that's a good way of getting help if you need it. And then finally, you can print out the problem if you want to do that as well. Okay, so that's what the homework looks like. The quizzes and tests button, this is where you'll find the orientation quiz. Notice that you have an unlimited number of attempts and it's not timed. This is also where you'll have the exams. And so the first exam is 120 minutes long. That's your time limit, and you have one attempt. Okay. And then you also will find the final exam down here, and the time limit there is 180 minutes. Now notice for each test you also have a practice test where you have an unlimited number of attempts on that test. So just make sure you take the practice test before you actually take the actual exam. Okay, the syllabus button pulls up the syllabus. This is the course ID for the class, and I'll talk about that more a little bit later. And I'll let you read through most of the syllabus, but let me just mention a couple other things. This is my office location and my office hours. This is my office phone number and my email address. Now, to register for my math lab, you want to go to this website and then click on Register as a Student. And then you're going to enter in the course ID, which again is this. And then you'll have to either get temporary access for 2 weeks, or you can purchase an access code immediately using a credit card or via PayPal. Now again, the temporary access is only for 2 weeks, so you have to pay for it in that time period. If you don't, you'll be denied access after the 2-week period, but you won't lose any of the work you've done, but you will need to eventually pay for it to get access again. If you run into any technical issues in my math lab, you can click on this link here. Now in terms of the grades, the homework is 20%, the final exam is 20%, and the final exam is comprehensive, so it covers everything. And then the 4 tests are worth 60%. And then your overall letter grade will be determined by this 10-point scale. The last day you can withdraw from the course is April 19th. And as I've mentioned before, if you don't take the orientation quiz before February 23rd, you will be dropped from the class. So make sure you do that before February 23rd. Then the other thing I want to mention here is that if you fall more than 2 weeks behind on the course calendar, you can be dropped from the class for not participating. So just make sure that you don't fall behind on the calendar more than 2 weeks. Okay, so I'll let you read through the rest of this. There's lots of good information in here. If you have any questions about the syllabus, just let me know. Okay, of course, this pulls up the calendar, the course calendar. Now, the way this calendar works is, notice that the first test is due March 6th, and it's over chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these are the suggested due dates at which you do the homework for these sections. They're suggested dates. These are not hard due dates. Remember, the homework in my math lab is not due until the end of the semester. But this is just kind of a guide to help you keep pace with the class, including the practice tests. There's no due date on the practice tests. So this is just a suggested date to keep you on pace. Now, of course, you do want to get all the homework done and the practice test done before you take the exam. This date, though, is not a flexible date. March 6th is the day the test is due. Okay, and so that's how this calendar is going to work. The second test is due March 27th. It's over chapter 5 and 6. These are the suggested dates for doing the homework and the practice test. But again, the only really hard due date is this test date. Okay, it is a good idea to get the homework done before the test, right? You want to try to get all this homework done before you take that test. The third test is due April 17th over Chapter 7 and 8. These are the suggested dates for doing the homework and the practice test. The last test, Test 4, is due May 8th over Chapters 9, 10, and 11, and these are the suggested due dates for working on those sections, including the practice test. And the final exam is due the last day of class, or before the last day of class, which is May 13th, and then this is just the suggested date for doing the practice final. This is a reminder that the last day you can withdraw is April 19th. And remember that since May 13th is the last day of class, everything is due by the end of that day, including the homework and the final exam. This additional videos button will pull up some optional videos that I've pulled up from YouTube on different topics. But these are optional. I'll show you the videos that you're going to be watching before you do the homework. Those are under the multimedia library button. But if you're interested in a particular topic and you want to pull up a video from YouTube, these are some suggestions. This button pulls up a textbook, which is an exact copy of the actual physical textbook. So buying the physical textbook is actually optional because you do have this ebook that you could use instead. Since they're exactly the same, there's no real reason to buy the physical textbook unless you really want one. Okay, this formulas and tables button pulls up these sheets that have all the different formulas listed by chapter and some of the tables that we'll be using in the class. If you want to refer to that, you can. The Testing Center hours button we won't really need this semester because we're not using the Testing Center. Now the gradebook button, you can pull up your overall grade by clicking on this show calculation button. Now the way I've got this broken down is this is where your homework is and it's worth 20 points. The 4 tests are 60 points. Then this quiz button is actually where the final exam is located. I put the final exam under the quiz category here, and that's worth 20 points. Don't confuse this. This is not the orientation quiz. The orientation quiz is not graded, so it's not part of your grade here. This quiz is actually the final exam. And then the number of points that you've earned will be shown over here. So for example, if you get, let's say 90% of the homework correct, then you'll get 18 points out of 20. And that'll be listed over here. And then when you add up all these points, your total points earned will be shown down here. And if you want to look at individual assignments and what grade you've gotten on those, you can look at this down here. Okay, the multimedia library button. This is where you can pull up different things by chapter and section. But I think the most important thing here is you're going to want to look at these section video lectures before you do the homework, and also these technology videos. So let's say, for example, you're going to do the homework from section 3.3. So go to chapter 3, section 3.3. Then I would pull up both the technology videos and the section video lectures. This is the section video lecture, so you want to watch that before you do the homework. But you also want to watch this 3-minute video on the TI-83 graphing calculator. Now you don't need to worry about the video on Excel or StatDisk because we're not using those. But you do want to learn how to use your graphing calculator, so make sure you watch these technology videos as well as these section video lectures before doing the homework. Now if you want, you can look at some of this other stuff, but I think this is the most important thing you'll be using here, is pulling up these videos. Okay, so that's the way the class is going to run. You're going to watch these videos first before you start working on the homework from that section. The Tools for Success button, there's a couple of things here you might use. There's this review card that basically pulls up all the formulas by topic that we'll be using in the class. So this is a good reference for the formulas that we'll be using. Underneath that, you'll see this calculator review card, and that pulls up this little reference sheet for using the calculator. And this is really nice because it tells you what buttons to press in order to get certain things done. Like if you want to create a histogram, this goes through and shows you every button that you need to press in order to create a histogram. And you can see there's several different topics here. Okay, so I'd use this as a good reference for learning how to use the calculator. The only other thing you might want to look at is we're not using StatCrunch, so you can ignore this. We're not going to use any of the data sets or StatDisk. But the other thing you might want to look at is there is a graphing calculator manual here for the 83, 84, 89, and Inspire calculators. So if you want, you can look at that to sort of learn how to use your calculator. We're not going to be using Excel, Minitab, StatDisk, or SPSS, so you can ignore these manuals. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of my math lab. Again, as I mentioned, your first assignment is to take the orientation quiz before February 23rd. And then after that, you want to start working on the homework from Chapter 1. And so again, what you should do is watch the videos from the multimedia library button, the technology videos, and the video for the sections, the lectures on each section before you start working on the homework. And of course, if you have any questions that you run into, just make sure you either email me or you can contact me using my cell phone number via text or calling. So again, if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. Okay, so have a great semester. Bye-bye.